Alright, so in this video demonstration I'm going to show you how you can install the WinTAK software development kit, and then how you can set up Visual Studio 2022, and then how you can create a simple basic plugin. Alright, so I've created a few markdown files here explaining how to complete this task. One that's a little bit more aimed at intermediate C# developers is this one here, the WinTAK simple usage plugin. So it shows a few of the functions that can be leveraged in the WinTAK UI, and this can be used to design a pretty decent plugin. I've just written a few examples here, and I've put a few pictures up just to help anyone really that's interested, that just wants to get a more visual approach. You can take a look at that one. But the one that I'm going to focus on today is this one. It's called the SDK Install, and this one is just focusing on the basics. So basically installing WinTAK SDK via the SDK binary, setting that up, checking that it's working, and then setting up Visual Studio 2022 and everything that goes along with that, such as the NuGet packages for WinTAK, etc. So I'm not going to really follow this because I already know what's happening here, but I will go through it as I install in certain areas where I'll need to copy paste some of the code. So for now I'm just going to move this to the side and get on with the install. So I'm just going to double click on the WinTAK SDK binary, and that should start. I'm going to minimize the Firefox browser. I'm going to click on yes. Right, so we're going to be greeted with the welcome wizard. I'm just going to click on next. There's a folder path that you can customize here. In this case, I'm going to just leave it as the default value. I'm going to click on next. There are included plugins with the SDK, which is interesting. In this case, we're going to make our own plugin, so we're not going to install any of these. The only reason I would install one of these is if my plugin is communicating with one of these plugins. But for now, I'm just going to click next, and we're going to click install. Right, I may fast forward this while it installs. Right, so the install has completed. Just a heads up, I just want to say that I have already pre-installed Visual Studio 2022, and I've pre-installed the .NET Framework 4.8.0. So you obviously have to have that done before you get into this development tutorial. Right, so I'm going to click on Finish. Right, so there we are. So we've got the WinTAK icon here. I'm just going to start WinTAK quickly for the first time, just to make sure that everything is working, the globe is loading, and there's no crashes, anything like that. Right, it's going to take its time loading. Yeah, so this computer is Windows 10 Home single language. It's got an i5 processor and NVIDIA GTX 950M. It is a little bit of an older laptop. Purchased this one in 2015, and I use it for a lot of my demonstrations and whatnot, just to compartmentalize my computers. So usually I'll just reformat this one and then just do the tutorial or something. Right, so I'm going to click on agree. I agree. Alright, nobody reads terms and conditions, so just click on my I agree. Would you like to import from a data package? We're just focusing on plugins, so I'm going to say skip. Call sign, I'll just say yes, just for the heck of it. Imagery, we don't need that. I'm going to cancel. Detailed, we don't need that at the moment. Alright, so let's check that everything's working. Right, the globe seems to be fine. Zooming in, zooming out, no crashes. I'll check with the GPS quickly. Okay, Marta, alright. It's an interesting name, but anyway. Right, so I'm just going to close the SDK here. Alright. Just give it a little bit of time to close. Yeah, and I also have 8 gigs of RAM, so not the greatest, but not the worst. Right, refresh there. Right, so now that we've found out that WinTAK is working correctly and it seems to be doing fine, I'm just going to go ahead and open Visual Studio 2022. So I'm going to start that. Right, so I'm going to click on Create a New Project. I'll wait for that to load. Right, and I've got it right here, so I've already done a test run just to make sure everything was working. So it's a user control library for the .NET framework. You must make sure that it's the .NET framework version, not the .NET Core. So that's just a caveat to be aware of. Alright, so I'm going to double click that, and I'm going to just leave it WPF control library, and I'm going to make sure that the .NET framework 4.8 is selected. I'm going to click on create. Alright, so now it's going to build the project, and it's going to open the IDE soon. Just give it a few minutes, few seconds. Right, so the environment is open here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just include the NuGet files. So I right click on the solution here. I go to manage NuGet packages. Right, so it will open up here. And obviously there won't be anything here, so I need to go to this gear icon, click on it, and then I'll click on the plus icon here. This will open this package source. So I'm just going to give it a name. I'm going to call it WinTAK 170. And then we click on this ellipsis here, and now we need to find the install directory for WinTAK, and we need to get the NuGet offline packages which are in a folder in that directory. So I'm going to go to program files and to WinTAK, and then here this NuGet folder is what we want. Double click that, and then we're just going to click on select, and then we're going to click on update, and there you can see we've got the offline NuGet files, and I'm just going to click on OK. Right, so then on this drop down here you can select the WinTAK 170, and then we obviously on the installed tab we're going to go to the browse tab now, and it should get all of the files. So we've got them here, they've loaded correctly, and now we just need to install them just to make sure that there's no errors. A lot of the times in the past I would receive a lot of errors installing these packages, but it seems this recent 170 version is almost seamless. It's so easy. So really all I need to install for my plugin I'm going to show you today is the MEF package, and then obviously the dependencies. So I'm going to start with installing the dependencies. I'm going to click on install, and it should automatically install it, and there should be no hassle. It will just take a little bit of time. So I'll just adjust the console here so we can see if there's any issues. Alright, I do have my internet connected. I'm not too sure if these packages are somehow connected to your account on tak.gov or whatnot. Just because I don't know about it, I'm not going to be sharing them, but anyone can literally just create an account there and download it from the official tak.gov website. Right, so the dependencies are going to be installed now, so I'm going to click on apply, and I'll just wait for that again. And there's it installing everything and creating references. We will need to create 2 additional references after I've installed these. One will be to the composite, so that would be just a standard library that's included, and then one will be to the TAK engine, but I'll get into that just now. Alright, so it looks good. So all I need to install now is the prism.mef, because we're using MEF for the plugin. So I'm going to say install, and let's let Visual Studio sort that out. Right, so it's sorted itself out. We're going to click apply and it should start installing. Alright, looks like it's installing quite well, and it's finished. Right, so now that's out the way. You can just double check. I'm going to close our NuGet dependencies, and I'm going to just right click on our project, and I'm going to select add, and I'm going to go to references here, composition here. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to go down here to browse. Right, then I'm going to click on browse, and now we're going to go to where we installed WinTAK. And I'm going to select the tak.engine. So something to be aware of, there's two different tak.engines. You want the one that's using capital letters, this one here. So not this one, not this one, but this one here. And then you click on add. Right, so there we've got tak.engine, and there's the path to it. Right, so I'm going to click OK. And those two references should be added. Right, so now it's the easy part, at least for me. So now I'm going to go to the markdown files that I created, specifically this one. So I'm going to close the intermediate one, and I'm just going to go over this quickly. So basically I say here, I demonstrate a step-by-step process, what, right? There's prerequisites, Visual Studio, etc., etc. Got just a little bit of a few extra things I talk about there. We go down, there's the steps, and you can basically follow these. They're pretty simple. I made it as simple as it can be, and we have just completed it all the way up to here. So now we're just going to set up the build settings here. So I'm going to right click my project and go to properties, and I'll make that larger so everyone can see. Right, so we're going to go to build, and I'm going to choose the 64-bit CPU, because this WinTAK is a 64-bit version. Hey, come on. Sorry, my cat is scratching my chair here. Right, so I've done that, and then I'm going to go to build events, and if I go to my markdown file here, I can just copy what I've written here. I've got it. Alright, so it's going to be a post build event, which we want, and I obviously don't want it. I want them next to each other like that. There we go, so that's a post build event, 64-bit setup there. And next thing we're going to do is look at the debug. So what we want to look at is the option here under start action to start an external program. So we're going to click on that. I'm going to click on browse. Now we're going to find where WinTAK is. So program files, WinTAK, and select WinTAK. We're going to open WinTAK when we start, and the working directory will be the root directory of the WinTAK binary. So I'm going to go to the files, WinTAK, and then this directory here. Alright, and that's about it. There's no other real settings we need to set up under the properties. So just make sure you save afterwards. If you haven't saved, you'll see a little asterisk next to like the debug or the build events or something like that. So just make sure you save it, and then you can close the page. And now we're sort of ready. So I'm just going to look at my notes again. So yeah, once you've done that, I go through it here on my notes. Now we can start doing copy pastes. So basically there's three classes that I'm going to create: a button, a dock pane, and a module. And then I'm just going to add a few XAML snippets to the user control, which I'm just going to leave as user control for now, and to the assembly file, which I'll get into that a bit later. But for now, I'm just going to create those, and then I'll continue. So how to create a class, you right click here, you say add, and you say a new item. Right, so I'll create the button class 1, and I'll create the dock pane. And the module class. Alright, so I've created those 3 classes. I've created the images. And now I'm just going to copy and paste my code into them. So I'm going to start with the button class. And I'm just going to copy it. And I'm just going to insert that into the class. Next, I'm going to switch to the dock pane. And I'll copy my code. And paste that to the dock pane. And finally, the module class. We'll copy that code. Paste that to the module class. Make sure all of these are saved. Okay, the XAML file looks fine. So I'll close that. Class names are correct. And save. Sure that these ones are correct. And just remove unnecessary class information. Yeah, that one's perfectly fine. And finally, the button class. And save that. Right, so all the classes are looking good. Everything is connected correctly. Just need to double check certain commands. Certain contexts. Right, so you need to add that data context in order to have the events trigger, and then we'll have to rebuild it to get a view. But before that, I'm just going to check the assembly info, and we're going to just look at what extras you can add to your assembly files. So, for example, you can add a plugin description, a plugin icon, and a plugin name. And you can have your icon show up there as well. In this case, I will ignore this icon. However, I will just keep everything else as default. So I'm not going to add any other information. It's just there to show you guys that it's possible. Right. So I'm gonna do a clean and a rebuild, and we can see how plugin is doing. So let's just rebuild. It says one has failed. Plugin dock pane does not exist, which is true because I didn't name it plugin dock pane. I changed it to dock pane class. So I'll rename that. Go back, double click, save that, rebuild. Let's see if we're successful this time. It looks like it's better. There we go. One succeeded. Right, so now it's the moment of truth. I'll click on start, and what will happen is WinTAK will automatically be opened once the plugin has built itself, and then we will just allow it to import that plugin. So we're just waiting for it to start. Right, so I'm going to minimize. Alright, there we go. So the plugin we just created was this one, WPF control library. We click on that. We'll click on OK. And now you'll see this little plugin button pops up here. Right, I'm just waiting for things to stabilize. There we go. So I'll just maximize this quickly. Right, so everything's still working. We'll click on the plugin button. Super simple plugin. We'll click on that, and it pops up here. So if I click on the increase counter, nothing's happening because the increase counter hook has not been connected yet. And if we're gonna move our mouse around the world, it does work. We are getting the correct coordinates, but you will see once I leave the globe, there will be a crash. There we go. It's a little bit slow, and that's just because we haven't created an exception to catch coordinates leaving the Earth. So we'll just have to do that a bit later. So for now, I'm just going to stop, and I'm going to take a look at my control here and see why is active missing. I've also added this to my website, which will look a little bit better. Right, and here I'm going to click on extending WinTAK, and then I'm going to scroll down to the counter because I forgot to add this text block here. Now I'll copy paste it underneath and save that and rebuild. Make sure everything is working fine, and then I'll start WinTAK again. Right, so I'm giving it some time, and I'll click on plugins. I'll go to super simple plugin, and now clicking on the increase counter, you can see it shows up there. And if I click on this and move around, it works. If I click on it again, it doesn't work. So that's basically how to start off with the plugin development. Thanks for watching. Cheers.